Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for joining me. Hope you all have had a wonderful week so far. Happy holidays to the viewing audience. I'm going to go over to my community page and bring you said updates and polls. Thank you for joining me. Should entire Bronx building be demolished? 2 votes, 100%. Should Murdaugh receive a new trial due to meddling allegations with jury by Becky Hill? 100% says no, 2 votes. Did Becky Hill ask her son to spy on city calls, emails, or he took it up upon himself? She asked, 67%. He did it on his own, 33%, 3 votes. Will Mr. Chrisley get his commissary cut off since complaining about the warden limiting his expenditure amount? 50% says no, 50% says not sure, but nobody voted for yes. Very interesting, 2 votes. Will Mr. Chrisley receive problems inside prison since he and daughter have come forward with allegations? 67% of you said yes. 33% of you said not sure, but you didn't answer to my questions about the commissary being cut off. I find that interesting. Okay. Most of the things I've posted in the past couple of days is pertaining to New York, South Carolina, pertaining to Becky Hill and her sons. This new information coming out about him being arrested a few weeks ago. I didn't even know he was arrested. Just found out yesterday. I don't know why I'm not getting information on certain storylines, but it is what it is. Let's go to Mr. Chrisley, everybody. He has spoken out. Entertainment Tonight is the source. Mr. Chrisley claims that fellow inmates blackmailed his daughter for money. This was uploaded almost 24 hours ago. Thank you for joining me. Let's hear what he has to say. I still find it very strange his daughter reaching out to that man whose wife plotted against him. Very strange information. I don't know what these people are up to, if this is just a ploy to get attention, some type of way to get some type of monies to come in for all of them. Because what we do have to ask is, how is he getting commissary, Mr. Chrisley? Who is putting money on the books? The daughter? She's already complaining. She has 2 children to take care of. Now she's got this newfound millionaire as a boyfriend. Is she out trying to get money? Very curious. Excuse the noise in the background. Hold on one second, everybody.
Taken me while I was sleeping. Sent to my daughter asking for $2,600. There was a photograph taken of me while I was sleeping. Sent to my daughter asking for $2,600 a month for my protection.
Extortion, rats, and expired food. Just some of the dramatic claims Todd Chrisley is making about life inside his federal prison in Pensacola, Florida.
You've got rats, you've got squirrels in the storage facility where the food is. They just covered it up with plastic and tore the ceiling out because of all the black mold and found a dead cat in the ceiling that dropped down on the top of the food. It's out of date by at minimum a year. And they are literally starving these men to death here. These men are getting, I don't know that they're getting 1,000 calories a day.
Let me interject right at this point. What I find interesting about this commentary is Mr. Chrisley saying these men are probably not getting 1,000 calories a day. Mr. Chrisley, what the hell are you talking about when you say these men? You act as if you're not a part of those men. Because you see, if you didn't have anybody putting money on your books, you'd have a problem with eating the alleged 1,000 calories a day. And with you running your mouth now and opening your mouth to the public through your lawyer and your daughter, you may not be getting your commissary because the warden could easily cut it off entirely. So when you say these men are probably not getting this and that, you're going to mess up and be one of those men without commissary, sir. May have access to getting funds, but no funds can be brought in to be put on the books. Because we have learned that sometimes when we open our mouths about certain things, even though we may be right, feel we are right, there can be repercussions. And now you're claiming that inmates took the picture. So now think about what you're saying when you're classifying these men as if you are not a part of the men in the prison, as if you are excluded as an inmate. See, some might think you still have the mindset of a human being sitting high up on a horse, self-entitled. As you have said, you heard conversations of recordings of you needing to be humbled. I'd like to know where you got those recordings. Or did someone send that to your daughter as well with the 2600 extortion letter? Your father thinks he's this, that, blah, blah, blah. We want money to keep him safe. So what all was in the letter, number one? Who puts commissary on, pay for commissary for Mr. Chrisley? Is this a ploy to try to get him out of jail? His daughter and attorney speaking. Will he have problems in the prison? Will people be calling and will he have problems, with the inmates, the warden, and whomever else? And since you're complaining about the outdated food, you might get a little something on your plate. I don't know. Although I'm sure you get to watch them put the fork and spoon in the meal and put it on your tray. But we know awful things can happen to you in prison, even without you saying a word to anyone out of the way. And as I said to someone in the chat last week, on the comment section rather, you seemed awfully feminine to me. And I noticed that on the TV show that you were on. I was just, passing through the channel, Bravo, or whatever network it was, many moons ago. And I thought, this guy, who is this guy? Because I didn't know anything about you or your reality show. I was just listening to you talk, and you just seemed very feminine to me, like a woman. And I don't think it's just a Southern accent, because we have a lot of men that live in the South, and they don't sound like you. They got a drawl, but they don't sound like a woman. And sometimes the commentary can come off, I guess, feminine in certain conversations when Southern men talk. But you a bit exuberant. What's going to happen with Mr. Chrisley? Please take the polls on my community page pertaining to this debacle down in Pensacola, Florida. Other rats, squirrels running around, outdated food, rationing of food. And you got all different people commenting, from articles to these videos, that some people feel like, well, he still shouldn't get mistreated, he and the other inmates, because they're human, no matter what crimes they committed. You got people in there who are in there falsely. You got people in there for lesser crimes, and they're wrapped up in there with rapists, murderers, so on and so forth. And yes, you should be treated accordingly. But then the flip side of that is one's thinking, well, you put yourself in there. You committed the crime. It's not that you didn't do it. You're not in there because somebody threw you in there mistakenly. All roads led back to you and your wife as far as your finances, and you taking out the loans. You didn't produce a doppelganger that did it, so you're in there. So possibly you deserve that. Maybe this will teach you a lesson to not steal and fabricate documents. There's so many ways of making money. People say, why not do it the right way? You have talent, you have skill. Why not do it the right way? Because what you did is no different than what Madoff did. He had the talent, the skill, but he got greedy. He became greedy, and he took investments and never planned on returning those investments. And I would get tired of somebody asking me anyway, where's my money? Where's my money? But there are people who live like this, lying on loans, loan papers about their income, making up fake sheets and data of workers and income coming in through their companies, alleged companies. And then somewhere down the road, somebody starts a digging. And then they end up with an indictment, jail sentence, and they end up where Mr. Chrisley is. So some could say, Mr. Chrisley, you put yourself here, so why should we feel sorry for you? You're entitled to your opinion pertaining to jail life, prison life. Seeking medical attention, medicines, eyewear, eye exams, mental health. Well, let's be truthful. Most of the people there are mentally disturbed. And you know damn well they don't have enough psychiatrists and mental professionals to go in there weekly to see about these men's mental health. That's the reason why most of them reoffend, because they didn't get any mental help. And the assumption is that they are going to redeem themselves and stop doing whatever they did when they get out. But that's common sense. How are you going to stop if you never got any mental help? And somebody else in the comment section complained about all this money we use, this money we give from tax paying. Why are you giving them outdated food? Because you're always crying, this is how much it takes to feed a prisoner. This is how much it takes to house a prisoner. And I get that too. Then why not feed them properly? So see, you can flip the coin either side. Flip it around 1,000 ways. No, I don't care about what happens to them. They're on their own. Shouldn't have gotten there. 2, treat them as a human, although they have done wrong. Which is it? I may pose that as a question as well on the community page. Does it matter how they are treated in prison and or jail? Because it's true. People make mistakes. And some mistakes are just minor. Thievery, not to this magnitude or you swilling banks and stuff. But you might have stole something out the Walmart or the Dollar Tree. Should somebody deny you meds, medical attention if you passed out? No, I don't think so. Because that's just inhumane to me. Denying a person medical care. To me, that's more important, medical care. Because we know that even a murderer goes into the hospital on the slab and gets operated on, and the people operating on him don't know that he just slaughtered 5, 10 people, and maybe he got shot or shot himself. You understand what I'm saying? And you still do due diligence because that's your job as a doctor, a nurse. You're a facilitator. You're supposed to help. And then you might find out afterwards, oh, I just saved a murderer. Just saved a mass murderer, serial rapist. Too late. You've preserved life because that is your job. And that's what detectives always say on that, what is that? First 48. No matter what he did, she did, we're still supposed to treat them equally. Solve the crime. Even if he just stole from somebody, robbed somebody shoots him, it's still our job to find out who the shooter is, the murderer. But some people may not feel like that. Why should I care? He just robbed some people, stole from some people, beat some people up, stabbed some people. Okay, now he's shot. Why should I care what type of care he gets? If he gets care at all, you're entitled to your opinion. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Sammy P. Let's finish this commentary about Mr. Chrisley. Sorry for that winded interjection. Sometimes I have to interject or I'll forget my thoughts by the time the video's over with.
These men are getting, I don't know that they're getting 1,000 calories a day.
Todd said that he wanted to speak out because he's so concerned for the other prisoners where he is.
The reality star recorded his comments for correspondent Brian Enton. They aired on Chris Cuomo's News Nation show, Cuomo.
I didn't walk away necessarily feeling sorry for Todd. I walked away from this wondering what it's really like inside that prison.
I eat syrup, eat peanut butter, that's where I get protein. I eat like a pasta salad, but I make pasta that I get in commissary.
We reached out to the prison. It replied in a statement saying safety, humane treatment, and healthy meals are top priorities, adding expired food is discarded.
There's been a lot of retaliation.
Todd's daughter, Savannah, made similar claims about conditions when we sat down with her last month. She alleges her dad faced backlash when she wrote about his prison life on social media.
Does that make you want to kind of reel it in a little bit?
Not really. His exact words were, I have to be uncomfortable in order to hopefully implement and force change, that I'm willing to do it.
Entertainment tonight is the source. So let's go here. This lady's asking her to reel it back. Does she think she should reel it back? And then she's saying, well, I guess she's speaking for her father. He has to be uncomfortable. I'm assuming she's speaking of her father, but she's out here free. So how uncomfortable could she be? See, that's the whole point. She's not in there. So it doesn't really matter what her father is saying to her. In the end, even if it's wrong what they're doing to him and other inmates, she's free. She can walk about, eat at McDonald's or Ruth Chris all damn day. Sit in the middle of the floor and eat a box of chocolates. Bloat herself to death, don't matter. She's free. He's the one that's going to pay the piper if at all somebody decides to retaliate. So imagine you're going forward with this information from inside the prison. Your daughter is repeating what you're telling her. Allegedly, these things are happening. Your lawyer is telling the public these things, allegedly. And then one day you look up and your head's busted. So now you can't talk because you're in ICU if they decide to take your ass to the hospital. They woke everybody. Hello, Paris. Thank you, sweetheart. Just imagine, Mr. Chrisley, you got your face tooted and twaffed like a woman. I won't doubt you've had some type of cosmetic surgery, to each its own. But you're not getting any of that in there. No spas, no special treatments, no nothing. You're just a regular civilian, and you're telling the world about what's going on in the prison. And some could say, well, we're just making a big deal because it's Mr. Chrisley. People in prison complain all the time. Yes, they do. It gets out to the public. Yes, it does. Everybody's not being extorted. They're family members, because most people don't have any money to extort anybody. But the gist of the story is that Mr. Chrisley did put himself in this situation. And I'm not here to wish bad on him or anybody in there, but some people in there might deserve a little mistreatment, maltreatment. I'm just saying. Because really, let's be truthful, as many victims' families will say, you getting life in prison or 20 years for murder, rape, torture, that's really nothing compared to what you did to the victim. And I'm not here to compare that to Mr. Chrisley's crimes, just speaking in general terms. Why should I care about what you're going through? You didn't care about my mother, sister, brother, whomever, friend. And as I said, his crimes are not compensatory to murder, rape, but he's in there. That's the point. And he may get retaliation, especially from the warden, because you've mentioned her. You called her by she. So now people are Googling trying to figure out who she is, what she's about. So you get a response from the prison. They take the health of the inmates seriously. There's no expired food. They throw it out. We don't know that. Expired food is in the stores, and they gladly sell it, hoping you don't look at the sell-by date, expire date. And it ain't marked down either. So you got to be careful when you're purchasing food and you're just throwing it in a buggy. But see, we are afforded that opportunity if we're able to shop because we're free. He's not free. They are not free. And yes, you should be treated with respect because you're human. But as I said, everyone will differ on their opinion pertaining to prison life, what you deserve and don't deserve. And one will say, hey, you put yourself there. You may not be a murderer, a child molester, rapist, but you stole from banks, deceived banks to get money. In their eyes, it's theft because you lied on documents saying you have a certain amount of income for us to give you these loans. So it's theft, false information. Then you took the money to live high off the hog when you didn't deserve the money. And then one's going to say, did you even intend to pay it back? So we also have to ask that question when Mr. Chrisley gets out, he and the wifey, because he's got a little stretch to do. How are you going to pay that money back? Or was the government able to seize, the banks were able to seize some properties and things of value to get some of the money back? I don't know, because I haven't done any research on their finances. But that's just something I'm throwing out there. Because who wants to get out of prison and still be owing somebody a lump sum of money? You'd be miserable. And he's not a young duck. And the wife is not a young swan. So therefore, you get out, you're trying to do like most people that's getting out of prison. You're trying to find somewhere to sleep. Find you a car, get you some income in. And they'll probably get awarded a TV show when they get out, because once you've been on reality TV and then you've gone to jail or prison, oh, they can't wait to get you on, if it's just an 8 episode, just for you to talk about what the hell happened while you was locked up. So that's money in your pocket. But it won't be any fun making the money if I got to give it up to the bank. See, people don't think. God blessed you with a TV show, and you also had a business as I believe, in real estate. So really, you didn't have any reason to be stealing money from the bank. Come on now. See, this is when you know people are greedy. And then I also checked how much they're worth. They're not even worth but maybe $1 million now. So they don't have anything, because I'm sure all that was seized. See, in the end, all that stuff doesn't mean anything. I thought about that with Madoff when Madoff got arrested years ago, many years ago. Gucci slippers, Gucci watches, just lined up like little toy soldiers in this bedroom, closet, whatever. What is a Gucci slipper when you're locked up? Got to get money for a bondsman and all that old type of nonsense. It don't mean nothing. I thought about that when I was watching this Homeworthy YouTube channel. Please check it out if you're into home decor and You like to see how other people live. Some of the people are wealthy. Some of them are regular people. But anyway, it's a new show I found yesterday, YouTube channel. It's probably not new, but it's new to me. Homeworthy is the channel. I was watching this African-American couple navigate us through their house on a tour. I don't know. At some point, I think I was getting a bit bored with her talking endlessly. And I was trying not to, be mean in listening, but some of the things to me, I don't know, something was rubbing me wrong about watching her go through the house. Everything she pointed to, she compared to her life. I don't know, there's something about it just didn't, I don't know, I just was getting a bad vibe. The circles, like some of the home decor had circles. So she'd say, oh yeah, I chose this because of the circles, because of circle of life, blah, blah, blah. And I pointed out like maybe 3 times she did that with certain items in her house. And I just was like, this is crazy to me. But I think what got me the most, that kind of perturbed me about that video, kind of jumping off the subject here, but it's in relation to people having money. She's standing in her kitchen. And I think she's between the stove and the countertop. And when you look down, the camera pans down to a glass floor. Well, beneath that glass floor is a wine cellar, okay? Stay woke now. So first thing I thought was, why do you need a glass floor to look down to the wine cellar? That's strange to me. Just to me. Finally, at the end of the video, they end up in the wine cellar. She and the husband, they've got grapes, cheese, and sliced sausage, salami, whatever, laid out on the table with the wine bottles. And then the gist is, we don't even drink wine. I don't even drink wine. So I thought, huh? So why? Shut up, Angela. This is exactly what I'm talking about right here. That's greedy to me. You have a wine cellar, but you don't drink wine. You have an entire portion of the bottom level of your house dedicated to a sitting room with bottles of wine, but you don't drink wine. Also, they're Christian people too, but I'm not even on that. I'm trying to understand why I'm getting ready to carve out a room in my basement to house 9 times out of 10 expensive wine, because she ain't going cheap. This is a 12,000 square foot house in Alpharetta, Georgia. So let's stay woke with me now. 12,000 square feet, a house full of stuff. You have to pay a lot to put all that furniture in there. And she gladly showed you what it was, where it came from, blah, blah, blah. And you got a glass floor with a view of the cellar of wine you do not drink. Now, I want you to think about that for just a second. Does that make any sense? Now, that's not including all the money you spent to house this place. Because 9 times out of 10, everything in there ain't from TJ Maxx. Although she mentioned she has some collectibles in there in one of the china cabinets from TJ Maxx. But as she said, she commingles high end, low end. And I don't have a problem with that. Because in the end, it's what I tell people about high end and low end. Most of the things you buy from the store here in America and abroad is made in China. So it really doesn't have any value. It's mass produced. Ask me how I know. Because I've seen some things in my own apartment on television. I've seen this lamp I'm looking at sitting beside me on the marketplace. I told myself, you should just go on and buy that other lamp from that guy because it'll match the lamp you got sitting right here on your desk. I've seen this lamp on TV in a movie, maybe 2 movies. I've seen this same gold lamp. I've seen it in silver in a movie. A picture I had years ago with the hands that meet. I've seen that on many TV shows, hotel lobbies. One was in Knoxville, no longer a hotel. If you all see where I'm going with this, mass produced. The gold mirror I have, the sunburst mirror. Niecy Nash has that same mirror. She has it in pewter. Saw it in her house years ago. That's where I'm going with this. Now, just imagine that. Queen is just a regular old person. I don't have a higher income. Don't really make any money from the YouTube videos. Pennies. And yet the things that are in this apartment, I have seen actually on TV shows, movies. So what does that tell you? That the stuff ain't worth nothing. It's not. Or you can go to one store and pay one price for it and then go to another store. It may be a little bit more expensive. But in the end, it's just stuff. And I think that's what's wrong with many people, whether they make $50,000 a year or $300,000 a year, or they only make $20,000 a year, or hell, they don't even work. All this stuff that you're breaking your neck to bring in your house, whatnots, doodads, makeup, shoes, it's all the same. Hell, shampoo bottles, it's all the same. What is the value of it? And that's what these wealthy people need to understand. You've already been afforded the opportunity to live well. And then you want to start cheating to get more money in your pocketbook. And you're not thinking of the day that you're going to get caught. And in the end, you're going to prison for, as I said, shit that's made in China. Mass-produced items, plates, cups, shoes, eyeliner, it's all the same. It doesn't even matter what the hell it is. It's mass-produced. And do you want to be defined by the things in your house? There's nothing wrong with having nice things. But as I said, those same nice things don't have any value. It's not custom made. It really doesn't have any value. Because in the end, a lamp is just a lamp. A shoe is just a shoe. Even if you pay $300 for the shoes and somebody's name is on the shoe, it's still a shoe. That's my commentary pertaining to Mr. Chrisley. We will see what happens. We will see if there'll be any retaliation against him in prison, because now he has acknowledged that an inmate took the photo, and I had made that commentary the other day. Who took the photo? A guard, or was it an inmate? It didn't even dawn on me that it was an inmate. For some reason, I just said, oh, I bet a guard did that. But he says an inmate did it. So who told him it was an inmate? Will they lash out? Will he confront the person? How will that turn out? Probably not good. What will the warden do? Will she now give him his expenditure for the commissary back because he said it got limited? Will some of his luxuries be cut off? Because, you don't bathe every day in prison, to my knowledge. What will happen to Mr. Chrisley inside? Or is this just a ploy to get out of there? Get some attention or some money generated to help with the needy fund? I don't know. Becky Hill and Jeff Hill. That's the new debacle circulating past couple of weeks pertaining to her son, Jeff, spying on emails and calls, court building in Colleton, South Carolina. And he's been arrested. I had no idea. I hadn't even heard. This is just some crazy, crazy stuff. And there's also a video released a month ago pertaining to Miss Hill firing back about the allegations. It's from Fitz News. It's on my community page. I have yet to go into that, so we'll get to that maybe one day. But right now, I'm just going to read you some conversation about her son. And once again, if you'd like to donate to this great network, $DeGanji 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. Happy holidays to everybody. Oh, wow, look at this. I'm on the Facebook Marketplace. There's my Keurig. Identical. Somebody's got theirs on sale for $15. I was selling mine for more than that. Oh, well. See, I be on the Marketplace too, looking for deals. I sell a lot of stuff on the Marketplace too, things I don't need. Try to get rid of all this stuff. I don't want all this junk. Life is short. You don't need all this stuff. As they say, you can't take it with you. All right, everybody. Jeff Hill is the next subject matter. ABCnews4.com is the source. Thank you for joining me. State investigators have found evidence linking a Colleton County government wiretapping scandal to a public ethics complaint against the county's elected clerk of court, Becky Hill, according to a source with direct knowledge of the ongoing public corruption probe. Jeff Hill, 34, is the former director of technology for Colleton County government. He was charged by state police November 21st with a single count of illegal wiretapping. He was briefly jailed and fired by the county the following day. A source with knowledge of the timeline and facts leading to Jeff Hill's arrest and firing tells News 4 Hill uses administrative control over Colleton County's internal communication systems to illegally monitor both calls and emails of other county employees. That source's identity is being withheld because they were not authorized to speak about the facts of an open investigation. A subsequent state police inquest into Jeff Hill's actions has produced evidence of a plot to spy on internal county discussions, most notably conversations about a former ethics complaint filed against Hill's mother, clerk of court Becky Hill, according to the source. The source told News 4 investigators subsequently found evidence Jeff Hill was relaying details of these illegally intercepted phone and email conversations back to his mother, who is facing public scrutiny herself for potentially abusing her role as clerk of court for financial gain. So what is the evidence against Jeff Hill? Did they get a warrant to tap into his phone lines, computer at work, once they realized he was spying on the court officials and staff? Very interesting, because I'm curious to that. How did the investigators get their evidence? None of the details shared with News 4 about the specifics of Jeff Hill's firing were publicly disclosed when he appeared in magistrate court for a bond hearing November 22nd following his arrest. Charge affidavits from State Law Enforcement Division SLED investigators released at the time only said Hill unlawfully intercepted a phone conversation July 20th, 2023. SLED did not disclose names of individuals Hill reportedly spied on, and no motive for the wiretapping was given at the time. Nothing was mentioned in the affidavit about emails, but the source who spoke to News 4 said county emails were indeed part of Hill's illegal monitoring. So what did he see? What did he hear? What all has he told his mother? Did he have a copy of any of the information transferred to maybe his own phone or computer, laptop, iPad? South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson announced December 5th his office was assuming jurisdiction over the ongoing criminal investigation into the actions of Jeff Hill as part of a broader public corruption probe in Colleton County. The 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office had initially launched a public corruption investigation into the Jeff Hill case. Solicitor Duffy Stone said in a late November letter to Wilson he wanted the state grand jury's assistance on the case because it has broader investigative power. Very interesting. It's because they were already investigating his mother with tampering with the jury in the Murdaugh trial. So now we have evidence of him meddling and wrangling around with phone calls and emails. Do they see this going somewhere else as well within the courthouse building? Other entities besides Miss Hill, her son? Very curious. A spokesperson for Wilson's office said no decision has been made yet regarding the impaneling of a state grand jury or which division of the AG's office will handle prosecution of the case. News 4 reached out to Justin Bamberg, an attorney representing Becky Hill, for comment on the details of this report. Bamberg was not immediately available to respond. Some additional details and background on Hill's actions are outlined in a suspension letter and subsequent termination letter from Colleton County Administrator Kevin Griffin, copies of which News 4 was provided through a standard public records request for Jeff Hill's county personnel file. Ooh, mercy. According to the letters, Hill was initially suspended for 18 days, effective July 27, 2023. After internal discovery, he had wiretapped phone calls of his supervisor. Now, don't you find this weird? He was suspended in July, but I heard of none of this information. Don't you find this interesting? Okay. So he had wiretap phone calls of his supervisor. Wow, this is deep. News 4 has confirmed Hill's direct supervisor was Deputy County Administrator Megan Utsi. Utsi declined to comment when contacted by News 4 with questions related to this story. And in this article, you will see the dated letter to Mr. Jeffrey Colin Hill, dated November 22nd, 2023, from a J. Kevin Griffin. Oh Lord, it also has the date and has somebody else's name scratched out, but it's a letter letting him know about the situation. It says he violated county policies. He's been accused of wiretapping. Supervisor. It's very fine print. You were permitted to return to work on August 14, 2023 on a probationary status. And just go on to outline it, the information. and then a copy of all the documents. The suspension and termination letters in Jeff Hill's personal file do not shed light on what, if any, justification Hill provided his bosses when confronted with their allegations that he'd been spying on their calls and emails. Very interesting. So no explanation. I think we know what the explanation is why he was doing this. Okay. Let's see. Where was I? County officials do, however, cite numerous violations of county policy as cause for suspending and later firing Hill. Most notably, County Administrator Kevin Griffin in Hill's termination letter cites sexual and other forms of illegal harassment. Griffin does not go into additional detail about the harassment claim in the letter, and that specific policy violation was not mentioned in Hill's earlier suspension letter. Boy, this is strange. The source who spoke to News 4 could not elaborate on the specifics of the harassment claim, but said SLED's ongoing investigation has revealed Hill extensively recorded and listened to Utsey's calls beyond anything involving his mother, including many of Utsey's personal and private conversations. Hill's suspension letter had previously outlined numerous other violations of county policies, including immoral, unlawful, improper conduct, or indecency, either on or off the job, which would tend to affect the employee's relationship with his job, fellow worker, supervisor, reputation, or goodwill in the community. Gross misconduct or conduct unbecoming of a county employee, insubordination, failure to follow instructions, failure to maintain a harmonious work environment, unauthorized use of telephones, unauthorized use or disclosure of county records. Despite the seriousness of those initial claims, records show that county administration allowed Hill to return to work August 14th on a strict probationary status while SLED continued its investigation. Documents say Hill's probation required him to complete mandatory ethics training and install new security protocols on select county systems. In Griffin's November 22nd termination letter to Hill, he notes additional violations of county personnel policies have been uncovered since Hill was originally suspended, and goes on to state Hill also had not met all the requirements of his probation. Neither the source who spoke to News 4 nor Jeff Hill's personal records offer insight into how long Hill's purported wiretapping scheme had been ongoing, or how county staff initially discovered what was happening. Jeff Hill worked for Colleton County government in the Information Technology Department twice over the last 11 years and had been with the county in his most recent stint for 5 years. Very interesting. So it said he worked for Colleton County government in the Information Technology Department twice over the last 11 years, 2 times, and had been with the county in his most recent stint for 5 years. Hill was hired as a systems administrator in the technology department, May 2018. Hill was promoted to technology director February 2023 and was making a salary of $90,537.20 at the time of his firing. Who would mess that up? $90,000 a year. This is a fool. Hill's personal records show he previously worked for Colleton County as an information technology technician from 2012 to 2014 before resigning. Okay. Hill's original suspension and the date of the wiretapping incident given by SLED both come in late July, about a month after someone filed an ethics complaint against his mother, Becky Hill, with the State Ethics Commission. So the timing is very interesting. Someone brings up a complaint against his mother, and then shortly after that, he's spying on phone calls of his superiors and other staff members at the court building. Reporter Ann Emerson on December 7th independently confirmed for News 4 the existence and authenticity of a complaint against Becky Hill made to the State Ethics Commission June 26th, which has been previously reported by Fitz News and the state newspaper. The complaint accuses Hill of unethically leveraging her elected position for financial gain through a book she published about the Alex Murdaugh murder trial, Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders. Contents of a dedicated website where the book was previously available for sale have been removed. The source who confirmed the authenticity of the complaint would not provide News 4 with a copy of the document, citing an open investigation and State Ethics Commission rules on releasing complaints. State Ethics Commission policy does not allow details of pending ethics complaints against public officials to be released until the commission has reviewed preliminary findings and decided if a formal hearing an investigation into the matter are needed. Only then does the complaint become a public record. The agency will not even confirm the existence of a complaint prior to a hearing being called. The State Ethics Commission is slated to have its next regularly scheduled meeting on Thursday, December 21st, but no agenda for that meeting has been set or released, offering insight into what matters the board may entertain at that time. Fitz News originally reported June 26, 2023, ethics complaint against Becky Hill on December 1st and was provided a copy of the alleged complaint. The state newspaper on December 11th published its own report on the ethics complaint after also receiving and reviewing the document. According to those reports, allegations against Becky Hill in the complaint include misappropriating funds. Wow, that's interesting. Neglecting her elected duties, using the county courthouse to engage in commerce, abusing her elected position for financial gain. So what funds did she misappropriate? Did she steal some money, doctor a check, what? Or is this something they're making up because of the book and somebody coming forward from the jury saying she talked to them and told them to ignore whatever Murdaugh was saying, he's guilty? What is this? Is this a conspiracy against her? What's the truth? The name of the individual who lodged a complaint against Hill was redacted from the documents provided to Fitz News and the state. Hill's book was co-authored by journalist and publisher Neil Gordon. Gordon's wife, Melissa Gordon, provided photography for the memoir. Neil Gordon has publicly refuted the allegations against Hill, which include claims she unethically gave Gordon's wife special access to the courthouse to gather photographs for the book. And that man has gone on to Court TV to talk to Fiddy Politan about the infamous picture, some picture that was released, and he says they didn't take the picture. What's the truth? Did they take the picture? Didn't take the picture. He shows data that shows they didn't take the photograph. It was already a public picture out there. I can't remember what the picture was about, but anyway. Murdaugh's attorney's claims were based on affidavits of 4 jurors who participated in the Murdaugh murder trial, and it says one who claimed Hill gave the jury instructions both not to be fooled by Murdaugh's testimony on the witness stand and to pay close attention to his body language. Murdaugh's lawyers have specifically alleged Hill tampered with the trial jury by pressuring them to reach a guilty verdict, asserting this would somehow further her aims of writing a profitable book. Neither the jurors interviewed by Murdaugh's team nor additional jurors interviewed by authorities investigating the jury tampering claims have said they felt pressure by Hill to reach a guilty verdict, according to court filings released to the public. Now, I will iterate right there, too. Becky couldn't tell me how to vote or nothing. I'm a jury member. I'll vote according to how I want to vote. So I think that's just the defense putting on right there. Because I don't know. She had that much weight to make somebody vote a certain way. Okay. Something else that was in here I wanted to mention. So these witnesses say they weren't pressured. And one brought forth the claim of her trying to tell them how to vote, or watch his body language, rather. So how many people have come forward from the jury to say she said negative things to them about Murdaugh? And is this just retaliation because she wrote the book, or what? Do some of you believe it's too soon to write a book? You're entitled to your opinion. Oh, Lord. There's an issue with the lady who published the book, her and her husband, if they all conspired and got together before the trial ended. But that man and wife say no. All of it was coincidental, accidental, how the wife met Miss Hill, taking a picture with her outside the courtroom. Oh, it's all a big mess. Okay. So once again, Murdaugh's lawyers saying that Hill tampered with the grand jury by pressuring them to reach a guilty verdict, asserting this would somehow further her aims of writing a profitable book. But what I wanted to say about that is she still could have wrote a book even if he was found not guilty. I think people still would be interested to know what it was like to be in the courtroom, listening to the commentary, blah, blah, blah. What would be the difference? Just like Casey Anthony. People still talk about her and the verdict, even though she was found not guilty. It didn't stop people from making documentaries, writing books, giving their commentary to the public. So I don't think it would matter either way. People still would be curious. Neither the jurors interviewed by Murdaugh's team nor additional jurors interviewed by authorities investigating the jury tampering claims have said they felt pressured by Hill to reach a guilty verdict, according to court filings released to the public. Becky Hill has also denied the allegations of jury tampering publicized by Murdaugh's defense team. State prosecutors who worked to secure Murdaugh's murder convictions have gone on to cast doubt in public filings, alluding to significant factual disputes and questioning the credibility of some testimony put forth by Murdaugh's camp. South Carolina Court of Appeals nonetheless sided with Murdaugh by remanding Murdaugh's murder case back to the circuit court for a retrial hearing after Murdaugh's team and state prosecutors had each made their arguments on the matter. A SLED investigation into the jury tampering claims even appears to lend credibility to some claims Murdaugh's team put forth. At least 3 jurors polled by SLED said they recall Hill telling them to watch Murdaugh's body language, according to a November 7th filing by the Attorney General's office. And that's the question I just asked. So it has been answered in this commentary. 3 people have come forward as jury members saying she did, Ms. Hill, tell them to watch his body language. And this is according to a November 7th filing by the Attorney General's office. ABC4 News is the source. Very winded article. Hello, Lady Lolo. Well, I asked that on the poll today. Should he get a new trial? And that question's been answered. He's getting a new trial. Please take the poll. Should he get a new trial because of this alleged meddling by Becky? There's also the allegations of why the people waited to come forward after they gave the verdict. Why didn't they go forward to the judge to say this woman had been talking to them and saying things out of the way about Murdaugh? She knows she's not supposed to say anything to them about Mr. Murdaugh, the witnesses, the case at all. I do believe that she and the judge are chummy, possibly were chummy. So I'm going to ask this question. How chummy are they now? Ms. Hill and the current judge, black judge. Because I'm still trying to understand why, yes, this got out all of a sudden. But as I've told you, especially when it comes to he said, she said, true crime, people do not always tell what was said and done yesterday, 5 days ago, 5 years ago. Because you'll hear people say that. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me he did this? Why didn't you tell me he touched you? Why didn't you? Because people have their own reasons for why they do things. A lot of people don't like to stir up trouble. They don't like to rock the boat. And you have to remember, if these people went forward with saying anything about the clerk bad, that would have just held out even longer. They might have to start the process all over as far as repicking a jury, all of that. And that's what you don't want, is a restart. Still found guilty, but now with this new information, new allegations, he gets a retrial. All because of these allegations. I do not know if they're truthful. I don't know if they're just doing this because, as I said, they felt some type of way about her making the book shortly after the verdict was read. But as you've heard, many people talk about court trials after trial. It's just that you don't really hear a lot of clerk speaking of trials. I don't. Now, I have backtracked my memory in documentaries I've watched recently, and there have been some judges who have spoken on trials that they officiated, but those trials were like years before. They weren't recent. And I also found that the judge had spoken about the Murdaugh trial, afterwards. But you don't have this happening in every jurisdiction of trials, murder trials, high profile trials. You don't sometimes hear judges and clerks and lawyers speaking publicly soon after a verdict. They might wait a while, a couple of years maybe. Some time has passed. Then they might give their commentary on what it was like, working the trial at that time. And maybe that's what the jury found offensive. It's that she broke out running her mouth to do a book and it was still fresh. I don't know. You're entitled to your opinion. Third topic of the hour, Bronx, New York. Boy, what a mess this is in New York City. Prayers for the victims. This is a harrowing tale because, as you see, anything can happen to a structure. Many people live in houses and homes and buildings that are crumbling, falling apart. The foundation is cracked and they're continuously taking your rent money with no fortitude to fix the problem. Well, it's only going to get worse because things are going to start to sway, tilt, break open. And God forbid, 7 flights, that's 7 flights down. That's a possibility of death. And luckily, nobody died during the fall of this building in the Bronx, New York. Grace of God. That's my last subject matter for the hour, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Please take the polls on my community board pertaining to Mr. Chrisley and Miss Becky Hill and her son, Jeff Hill. Those are the first topics. So far, I've got 15 votes on this Bronx story. Should entire Bronx building be demolished? 100% says yes. Okay, everybody. We're going to dissect this situation. Victims want Bronx building owner held accountable. Yeah, good luck with that. ABC 7 New York is the source, everybody. Woo. Dogs are having a bad evening tonight.
Be allowed back inside to get their belongings. Crews have been working to shore up the building in Morris Heights after a corner of it came crashing down on Monday afternoon. More than 40 families have been impacted by the collapse, left with nowhere else to go. Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Carlo is live in the Bronx with the very latest. Anthony.
Liz, we just spoke to the superintendent of the building moments ago. He says he's still got 3 cats in the basement of the building that he's trying to get out. We're talking about more than 40 families here, 150 tenants. Some of them we spoke to say they've got important paperwork inside they need. Today, contractors began shoring up the inside of the building so emergency demolition can start on the part that collapsed. The city says once that's done, tenants will be escorted in to get what they need. But until then, well, lives are on hold. Tenants went from having a home to practically living out of their car. Their building collapsed, and for the Martinez family, so did everything else.
Our dreams, my kids' dreams, and it's ridiculous because it's Christmas right around the corner, you know?
Teary-eyed and searching for answers. People who once lived here hoping to pick up what's left.
The passport, you know, birth certificate. A little bit close, maybe.
I came here to support my brother to give him some money because everything is there. They don't have nothing.
Ever since part of the Billingsley Terrace building came crumbling down Monday, lives have been upended. Today, as city contractors prepare for emergency demolition work on the crumbled corner of the building, tenants and their families say it was always a disaster waiting to happen.
Everything is a mess. They don't fix anything. That's why that happened.
There was so much neglect, some tenants say, they took it upon themselves to patch up crumbling apartment ceilings.
We have problems with the owners. I have problems because they never fix. You told them something and later, tomorrow.
There were a number of maybe 100 or more HPD violations. Do you have a comment on that?
I don't know nothing about that.
Ben Hertz claims he's not part of ownership, but was out here today to, quote, help out. As for the tenants, he says,
Owners working to get them back in as soon as possible.
For Miss Martinez, soon is not soon enough, especially for her small children.
Imagine you wake up and they say, I want to go home. But what home?
Oh, just heartbreaking to listen to there. Now, how long it takes tenants to actually be escorted back into the building to get their belongings, that's not really clear. Some of them we've spoken to say they were told as soon as today, but the city laid out a timeline that seems to include emergency demolition, heavy work on the part of that building that collapsed before anybody will be allowed to go back in to pick up their belongings. I asked some of the tenants if they'd ever return here to live here, even if it was salvageable. They said they would not.
ABC 7. So they will not go back to live. What about the people who don't have anywhere to go? Tomorrow is the deadline for the people to continue getting help through the Red Cross. That's not even a lot of time. The building just fell Monday. You're already ready to stop paying for accommodations wherever they are tomorrow. That don't sound right. I also hear that I guess the city of New York is going to help rehouse the people in other apartment buildings. Now imagine that. Even if you want to continuously live in New York City, you're going to be rolling the dice to move into a structure that 9 times out of 10 is old, maybe not almost 100 years old, but old. Because the buildings in New York, they're not like a lot of buildings in others, smaller cities. Their buildings have been about 100 years. That was the worst part about New York City. It's building these skyboxes even in the 1800s, 1900s, and then people coming in doing a little this, a little this. Hell, it's one of the buildings didn't fall a long time ago. There's nothing but buildings in New York. You're talking about 150 people don't have a place to stay that's their own. Do not know where all these people are staying. But as I said, everybody is not in the same situation. May not have friends and family they can go stay with. So they're going to need somewhere immediately to stay. I won't doubt that there will probably be some scam artists jumping in on this, giving up an address to say they stayed there. Because how would the Red Cross or whomever is helping now know that this person actually stayed in the building? Because if you weren't allowed to go back in, you can't really prove you stay there. How would you prove it? It's no different than what happened in New Orleans with the floods. Here in Gatlinburg, when the fires happened, people were scheming and scamming the agencies that were helping to say they lost their house when they didn't live anywhere near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. They got a place to stay. They just lied. I suspect that's what's going to happen here. Some people are probably going to make up that they live in that building. And that's going to be unfortunate for those who actually are displaced. But tomorrow is the cutoff day for the shelters, I believe, or wherever they're staying. And that's no good. The people have to have somewhere to live. And I don't know if some of these people will still want to even stay in New York City and live in another apartment building, especially a brick one like that. Because as I said, most of the buildings in New York City are old. They're not new. And if they're newer, you're talking about several $1,000s in rent that I'm sure these people cannot afford. Let's hear from one of the landlords. You hear one of the guys who alleges he's not one of the owners. I don't even know why they were talking to him. What's his affiliation? And why is he watching? It's very strange to me. But anyway, this Mr. Hertz guy. We're going to hear from one of the actual owners of this, what they call it, 1115 Realty Company. This is uploaded 22 hours ago. CBS New York 2 is the source of this information. This is bad business, everybody. 100 complaints, lots of violations, ceiling falling through where somebody took a picture in their bathroom. So what you do, you just patch that up. And just because they're saying, oh, we don't have any information of this building going to fall down. Well, it did fall down, part of it. So what's the difference?
As we put the tough questions to the landlord.
Only CBS 2's Ali Bauman spoke with him about the issues that residents say went unrepaired before the collapse. We have live team coverage with the CBS 2 investigation into ongoing issues at that property. Good evening. I'm Dana Tyler.
And I'm Dick Brennan. We can tell you that we begin tonight with that exclusive update to the Bronx in the building collapse.
2 days after a corner section of the building crumbled, CBS 2's Ali Bauman confronted the landlord. Ali's joining us live now. What did he have to say, Ali?
Man who identified himself as the landlord dodged our questions when we asked about why these essential repairs were not made to the building, with over 100 violations from city agencies before this collapse even happened. And tonight, dozens of residents waited outside the building here for hours after they were told by the building super that they would be allowed into the apartment to gather documents, clothing, baby formula, and other essentials. While they gathered, the landlord, who identified himself as David, was inside with the building's department and came out here to a crowd of angry tenants. But when we asked him about the disrepair the apartments fell into, he ran away. Take a look. What do you say to the residents here whose homes are destroyed?
Thank God everyone is safe, and hopefully everybody except for that 6 apartments will be restored as soon as possible.
Why weren't repairs being made? There are over 100 violations. Who was in charge of making these repairs here?
They don't belong over here.
Well, residents have now been told that they will not be allowed inside the building tonight after all. And the buildings department told us that partial demolition of the corner collapse side of the building is expected to start as early as tomorrow morning. For now, we're live in the Morris Heights section of the Bronx. Ali Bauman, CBS 2 News.
All right, Ali, thanks.
All right, everybody, that was yesterday's news. So they weren't allowed back in the building yesterday. So we're praying that they got in. They'll be getting in soon. To get belongings, formula, different things, documents. That's why I said it would be easy for people to try to scam somebody. any agency trying to help. But I'm sure any agency helping, such as the New York Housing Authority, they're going to ask for verification that they lived at that residence. So they're probably going to ask them for mail or try to go somewhere to get a document, like from the light bill company, gas company, to show that they did stay in that apartment building. More running around that they're going to now have to do to verify their status as being a former tenant of that. I expect lawsuits against this man. And you're talking about a lot of people to sue, about 50 people at least. Children, 44 children displaced from this apartment complex. Thank God nobody was injured. Nobody was killed. And as they said, there were businesses on the bottom, a bodega, a store, grocery store, market, I think a tax office. Nobody hurt. That is so interesting. That nobody was hurt. Nobody got hurt walking on the sidewalk, turning a corner. You see a car backing up as the debris starts to fall. Just imagine that the car had been pulled up further, wasn't paying attention, talking on the phone, and all that debris come falling down. And as I said, those who don't have anywhere to go, because we don't even know where these people are going to be placed come tomorrow. Is the city going to give them an automatic key to another residency? I don't know. I'm assuming the New York Housing Authority will help, and other bureaus that have housing authorities will help place these people somewhere in the New York jurisdiction of the city. Small island. And the reason why New York is overcrowded is because of this situation here. Tall buildings with people packed on top of each other. That's all New York is filled with. It's really a tiny island. It's not a big place like people think. It's called the Big Apple, but it's not big. It's a city with a bunch of buildings that are tall, and they can house more people. And they're steady building, because you can't build out on the island. All you can do is build up. Up. And look at the situation of being up. You can come down to your death. And God forbid anybody on the street gets crushed to death from a damn building falling down. And other people in New York should be very leery right now, because what you have to tell yourself is this: if this building crumbles at the corner, what is the situation with the building I'm in? Because there are other 100-year-old buildings in New York as well. And they probably have the same issues and problems as this Mr. Zanger, who was so ignorant in this commentary. News reporter trying to talk to him. He's talking about be thankful for the ones that's, that are okay. We're going to repair the other units. Sir, you're past that stage of repairing any unit. The city is getting ready to tear down that portion that's already caved in. Where I'm leery is what's going to happen when they start tearing off that end. What's the possibility that the rest of the damn building will start to just cave on in? That's my fear. Because I'm trying to understand what is the catch-all. We're going to just pick at this side of the building that's already fallen. Pick it off. So you pick it off, then what? I think all of it needs to come down. And as for the people who still live on the other side of the building, what's going to happen to them? They remain in their apartment because it looks safe. It's nowhere near where the falling part came off. I'm confused because I don't see anybody staying in there, period. That's my thing. I'm thinking they need to allow the people to get in, get what they can get. That's going to be an issue too. Setting a timer for how long you can go in there and get your things. And then you have to also worry about trying to get in, walking on the foundation, and God forbid something else starts to crumble. Because see, that's the whole point of this. It's just a situation that the building is on its way down. It's just slow rolling right now. Or as we would say in the street, a slow burn. This fell off. But even if that guy wasn't drilling in the building, trying to do whatever he was doing the other day, this was going to happen regardless of any work being done to the building. It's a day late, dollar short. And anybody living in New York City should feel very leery if they live in a 100-year-old building. Frankly, you should be fearful if your building is 40 years old and the proprietors have not kept up with the building. This is why you take care of a structure. People should know this. Even if you're in a house, 50-year-old house, 60-year-old house, once you see cracks inside the building, outside the building, the sidewalk is cracked, the porch is cracked, you have a foundation problem. It's only going to get worse. Now imagine 7 stories up. That's serious. Because that's 7 stories that's got to hit to the ground with people in the building. Pets are in the building. Now imagine, black girl was screaming the other day about her dog. She wanted to get her dog out of there. The dog's now been in there several days without being able to go to the restroom, be walked. That's inhumane. The dogs and cats haven't been fed. You haven't laid out any food because you weren't able to get in the building to feed the cats and the dogs. This is bad, bad, bad. I feel sorry for these people. I feel bad for them just like I felt bad for the people who perished in the building that fell down in Florida. The remaining people and the relatives sued, as they should have. And that's what's getting ready to happen to this dodo bird here, who thinks he's just getting ready to patch up the other apartments. The other 30-something apartments, he thinks he's getting ready to patch up. No, sir, you have a big problem. The city probably will take down the whole building. But because really, there's no point in leaving the rest of the building up. It's pointless. Because if it's old in the corner, it's old throughout the building. Yes, Lolo, it is a nightmare. This is what I'm saying. Everybody in New York should be scared to death because that is not the only 100-year building standing up, 90-something-year building. That's a long time to be standing upright. This is why you see new infrastructures being built. Courthouses, jails, because they're old. And as somebody said, there's only so much patching you can do. One picture they showed with the ceiling gone in the shower, above the shower, you could probably look up and see your neighbor's shower as well. You're looking up in their bathroom for bathroom. This has been a problem. And 9 times out of 10, you're talking about almost 100 years in existence. You've got to think about how many times the place was just patched up. It wasn't formally done. The roof probably needed redoing because there's cracks way up there at the top floor at the corners of the building that would hold the structure together. So far we know, it could have actually started falling apart from the top. I don't know. I'm not sure. But it's messed up. And it's not going to matter to say, well, we're going to fix this corner and let the other tenants move back in. Hell no. Because what's going to hold up the corner while everybody else is moving and shifting about on the other floors? Think about what you're saying now. A whole piece of a building is gone. You want us to believe you're now going to finally take some money to fix the corner. And people are still going to be living in the other parts of the building, moving and shaking and running and all that. Oh, that ain't going to work. That's not going to work. It's over with it. And he needs to just get with his insurance company and start doing the numbers and let it go. And expect the worst, because I'm about to bring you the worst of New York City right now pertaining to slumlords and this Mr. Zanger, who was just approached by the reporter. He's on the worst slumlord list in New York City. That's how bad it is. Oh, mercy, help us, Jesus. This is so terrible. Thank you all so much for joining me. Please go back to the beginning of this live to hear the commentary pertaining to Jeff Hill, Becky Hill's son, and Mr. Chrisley. And all information is posted to my community board with the source if you need verification. NYC's Worst Landlords List 2023. Fox 5 New York is the source. There's an advocate, and he's bringing you the 411 pertaining to the slumlords of New York City. And Mr. Zanger is on that list, the guy you just heard speaking about praying for those who survived.
From hot water outages to rodent infestations and non-functioning heat units, the annual list of worst landlords right here in the city, it was just released.
Now, according to the New York City public advocate, Jimani Williams, the same landlord is on the list. He tops the list. He topped it in 22. He topped it again in 23. It's not the list you want to be number one on, but apparently this guy don't care. He's got nearly 3,300 open violations between 306 units across 15 buildings. Jimani Williams, our public advocate, is with us this morning. Does this guy know?
Let's go back. 3,300 open violations.
Outages to rodent infestations and non-functioning heat units. The annual list of worst landlords right here in the city, it was just released.
Now, according to the New York City public advocate, Jimani Williams, the same landlord is on the list. He tops the list. He topped it in 22. He topped it again in 23. It's not the list you want to be number one on, but apparently this guy don't care. He's got nearly 3,300 open violations between 306 units across 15 buildings. Jimani Williams, our public advocate, is with us this morning. Does this guy not care?
You know, this is a public shaming, and sometimes it takes a little while to shame them enough. The building we were at yesterday, thankfully, those tenants have used the list and other tools to finally get some remedy. But Jonathan Santana / Daniel Opsalon, we have to say both of them legally because they like to switch around the names. Not only did they top themselves in terms of being on the list, they actually topped themselves in terms of how many violations they had. So they now have had more violations than in the history of the list twice. And that's disheartening. And even more so, the building collapse that happened.
I was just wondering about the building collapse because that guy was not on your top 10 list, was he?
Well, so the person who's listed on HPD as Yona Roth is connected to Jacob Zanger, who's listed on DOB.
Okay, so where does he fit on your list?
So one, there's a problem here because there's layer upon layer that makes it difficult to figure out who owns. But Jacob Zanger, who was also Jay Zanger, was number 81 last year and is number 50 this year. Wow. And so these lists and the things that we're doing to flag folks can potentially prevent things like the tragedy that we saw. Thank God no one died.
Okay, so when you create this list, have you reached out to some of the landlords and like, let me just sit down with you, let's talk. What is going on?
Well, most of the time when we write the lists, we get a lot of incoming of folks trying to get their name off of the list. Yeah. And the way to get yourself off of the list is to actually make the repairs. They do have some folks that are lower on the list, but sometimes that's because people have gotten so much worse. In the case Jonathan Santana and Daniel Opsalon. And we do know that banks look at the list, so sometimes it becomes an irritation to the landlords and to the owners. But we wanted to move from an irritation to something that's untenable. So what we want to see is not just higher fines. We do want to see some of these buildings just taken away. We do want to see some criminality attached to it. Thankfully, the building we went to, it's now under what's called a 7A administrator, so the owner can no longer collect rent. They have a $1.2 million fine attached to it.
Good.
Wait, hold on, but if you're fining them this money and if they can't collect rent, then they cannot make repairs, no?
So one, this fine is one of the biggest that has happened. And we need to make sure that it's not just the cost of doing business. And that's what has been. Even some small fines are just the cost of doing business. This is a step that's not usually taken. So usually the owners are still collecting rent. Most of the owners and managers who are on the 100 worst landlord list are still collecting rent, but not making repairs. This is some of the most, we only see the violations growing and growing and growing. And we often try to blame the migrants for a lot of the things that are happening. But housing is actually the primary problem here. If we had dealt with it, we wouldn't be in the situation we are. And preservation of housing is important. So when we allow these things to deteriorate, it becomes even worse.
Where's Night Shift, by the way? We're the worst. Isn't the city the worst landlord?
The city is so bad, they're always in a category by themselves. So yes, they are number one. They have just about 570,000 open violations, and by comparison, the number one private was just about 3,300. So yes, they are the worst, and the amount it takes to get to where we need to be is grown to almost 80 billion with a B. That is absolutely something we need the federal government to assist with this. So it's both funding and better management by nature that's needed.
Can we talk about another subject that's in front of the city council, a new bill, which I think, are you one of the sponsors or co-writers on this bill that would ultimately add more paperwork to the NYPD's day? Some people obviously have come out against it, like the police union and the Staten Island DA, which says it would make it unsafe for police officers, add more work to their day, and cost more. Why do you think this is necessary?
So one, I always try to tell people, let's at least agree on what we disagree about. And most of the folks who have come against it are actually disagreeing on some things that's not in the bill. And so what they have described is something we would never support, which is every time the police officers do something, every time they make a stop, they have to report it. That's not what this is about. And I would say we should go back about 12 years because right now everybody would agree that the abuse of the stop, question, frisk was a problem. But if you look at what was sent out before we passed our bills, it's very similar to what's being said now.
So just explain it to me, because some of the things that they, have reported is that if an officer gives somebody directions to a tour.
Okay, so they're talking about police situations there. I don't want to really get into all of that. That's a whole different subject of stop frisk business. What do you all think of this commentary? I've got more information I can bring you pertaining to this Mr. Giummani's 2023 list. This is so bad. This is so bad. But this is expected. And this is not just New York City, not just boroughs of New York. This is everywhere in the United States and abroad, UK, Europe, other places. Still have mangy people running properties and just half-baked doing things or not doing anything and expecting rent money. And I think that should be the law of the land. You don't fix anything, you cannot collect money, and it shouldn't be expected that a tenant should pay money for things that are uninhabitable, such as a working toilet, bath, shower, kitchen sink, roofing, all of that. You should not be expecting any money. And it needs to be mandatory by the city that they cannot collect money. Okay. The New York City Public Advocate's Office, which is Mr. Giummani, you heard here in this news commentary, released its annual list of the 100 worst landlords. On the list has ties to the building that partially collapsed in the Bronx on Monday. The building is owned by a shell company, 1915 Realty LLC, but the same engineer who warned in early 2020 that the facade was unsafe also listed the names of people from the company in its paperwork, and one of those names is very familiar to the city's public advocate. The 2020 report, which included photos of cracks on the building, that engineer listed the owner as Jay Zanger of 1915 Realty LLC. And that is the man you heard earlier talking about praying for the people and getting the part that broke off restored and moving the people back in. Okay, he's been listed as the 81st worst landlord in the city by the public advocate last year. And this year, Jacob Zanger was listed as the 50th worst. The public advocate says it's likely the same person, and the two lists connected the names to several of the same properties. I really hope this is a wake-up call for us so that we don't have the absolute worst case scenario next time, public advocate Giummani Williams said. Those lists don't mention the Bronx building, but they do say Zanger is the landlord of several other Bronx buildings with hundreds of combined violations. Housing violations. One property last year's list was a building at East 168th in Sheridan. City records show someone filed a complaint there in 2012 about cracks in the middle of the building. CBS New York investigative reporter Tim McNicholas visited the apartment Wednesday and found cracks in the hallway on floors 1 through 4. How does that make you feel? McNicholas asked the tenant. Unsafe, said the tenant, who did not want to show her face because she doesn't want to upset the landlord. I tried to do everything. I called 311, but it's like you do what you can, but it's like your voice is not heard. City inspectors noted no structural defects when they investigated that complaint. When CBS New York asked the buildings department about the concerns Wednesday, they said they sent an inspector to the property. Elio Valerio said he's been trying to get management to fix a hole in his ceiling at the property for 2 years. He says part of the ceiling fell down and hit his wife. McNicholas visited another property connected to Zanger on the worst landlord list and found people painting the hallways. God, this is crazy. 2 residents told CBS New York that work just started Wednesday. We've tried to reach Zanger for an interview, but we have not heard back. Another filing from that same engineer a year later in 2021 listed the owner of the Bronx building that partially collapsed as Charlie Clark with 1915 Realty, so we don't know whether Zanger is still associated with the building. Well, that's the said information, CBS News. Well, in the end, it doesn't really matter if Zanger is affiliated. He is affiliated with this building that just fell in Morris Heights. And he was listed on the worst landlord list last year at 81, and he's listed at number 50 this year. So he owns some of these properties, be it 200, 300, or 12. It's all the same to me. And that's the whole point. You're greedy. You're acquiring these properties, which you see so many people do this. They acquire all these properties, but they don't have the manpower to fix things such as maintenance staff, adequate maintenance staff, licensed maintenance staff. You see, you can't have one without the other. You can't have properties, but you don't have anybody to work the properties, number one. Number two, you don't want to pay anybody a proper wage to be a worker, maintenance staff. You don't want to pay for pesticides, pest control. That's another problem. You know the building is messed up, the house messed up, it's roach infested, rat infested, but you don't want to pay anybody. You don't want to do what's proper to the house, the structure. So it's not just apartment buildings. It's houses too. It's all the same. Houses, land, trailers, duplexes. You buy the place. You do the bare minimum. You know you got mold in the damn place, but you just want to throw a little bleach and some cleaner solution on it and then move the people in. I tell anybody when you walk into a structure, if you smell mold, walk right back out. Ain't no need to stand. Ain't no need to look at it. Nothing. I don't care if you're desperate for a place, because what you're going to do is hinder your life cycle. The very reason children grow up with asthma, who become adults with asthma. Mold. I never knew that. I never knew anything about mold and asthma until I became an adult myself. And I heard that a few years back. Mold is what causes asthma in children. So if you smell mold in a property that you are acquiring, walk back out the door and keep it moving. And don't feel ashamed to tell the landlord, well, what's the matter? What's wrong? You don't want to look at the place? No, I don't. I smell mold. You have a nice day. Goodbye. And I surely would put their ass on blast. Put it on the neighborhood watch. Put it on Facebook. Put it out there. Let people know so they can quit stealing money from people. Because that's what's happening here in New York. Rundown tenements. Stuff that's been going on for as long as Angela's been breathing. 50 plus years we've heard these same stories. Public housing buildings, they were infested, broke down. They didn't want to fix nothing. ABC did a special on New York City housing a few years back. Same situation. People putting in maintenance requests. And as I've told people, you assuming, oh, they just getting welfare. It really doesn't matter. The problem is that's where they live. But as somebody just said in one of these interviews, oh, we're giving up $2,000 a rent. Ain't nobody living here for free. Doesn't matter. Subsidized rent, partial rent, all of the rent. The point is, it's somebody's home. So it doesn't matter if a person is paying part of the rent, the government's paying the other part, they pay the whole prorated amount. The point is, a person has to have a safe structure to reside in. And it does not matter if it's a house, a trailer, a barn, a subsidized unit. It is supposed to be kept up by the owner of the property, point blank. You have no right to ask for money when you have not fixed the problem. You have fixed the problem. You bait the problem. The structure needs a roof, put on a roof. You need guardrails to walk up the damn steps, put up the rails. It needs new windows, put in the windows. Refrigerator, stove, dishwasher, whatever the hell it needs, fixtures, put them in. There's too many places now that you can buy things at a discount rate. So there's really no excuse not to have a decent doorknob, shower fixture, bath fixture, People just make excuses because they don't want to spend the money. And that is what is happening all over the United States. Everybody wants the money for the property, but they don't want to do nothing to fix it. And I can attest to living somewhere that you don't like, and they're getting the money, and it don't look like SHIT. And their attitude is, well, it's a place for you to stay. Why are you complaining? I can complain all damn day. Because my thing is, you don't live here. So if you're not willing to live in the type of places that you're renting, why do you expect the people to continue to rent and give you money in a place you wouldn't sleep? And that's what these landlords need to understand. You don't live like this at your damn house. You probably got a nice house, nice condo, got an acre or two, private driveway, all of that. But then you want to rent places to other people and you half-baked doing shit. Don't sell me what you're not going to put up with. That's how I feel. And that's what's wrong with America. Everybody wants to eat. Everybody wants steak, grits, potatoes. But they don't want to do what it's deserving to eat that well. You just want to take. You can't be a taker all your life. And these people are getting ready to fall by the wayside because they're now going to be hit in the pocket with fines, the demolition of the building. Guess what? The city's going to sock that bill to you. They're going to sock you with a big bill. You thought you had problems with these citations, 300,000 citations or 100,000 citations, however many there are. Think about how much it's getting ready to cost the city to tear that damn whole building down. And then they've got to haul all that debris off to a landfill or wherever they break that metal and stuff down. That's going to be on your back, your insurance company. And see, that's the gist of the story. They have to have insurance. So this is why it never makes any sense to complain and not repair anything. You're not going to be able to own a property without insurance. Somebody has to be on your back about you having insurance and also the violations. And as I said in the chat, I blame the city of New York as well, because how many citations can you continuously send a person? I don't care that you only have 500 inspectors for New York City. That's a personal problem. It has nothing to do with the people who live there. They're just trying to live and survive. It is your job to make sure the inspectors are thoroughly doing their job, that they are going back in to re-inspect the places and give an adequate grade of the property. There should be a limit to how many fucking notifications you can keep sending a person. Nobody should be getting 10, 12 violations for a building or a house. Because guess what? Those violations add up to years. You want to make up excuses? Oh, we don't got enough people to go out and inspect, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well then let's use deduction. 500 inspectors per how many buildings actually stand up in the city of New York? We need not even try to count. So you send an inspector, he writes up 5, 6 violations. So then we got to count when he returns. What's done? Nothing. So then he puts it off some more weeks, month, returns. Nothing's done. This is nothing but a cat and mouse game, literally. So what starts off today ends up a 5-year run around in circles of a building that's almost 100 damn years. And the city feels we're going to get this money one way or the other. Even if it takes 5, 6 years, we'll just keep sending violations. You owe us $2,000, you owe us $3,000, you owe us $2,000. And before you know it, it's just like what I said. It's year 1, it's 5 years, it's 6 years. But see, I blame the city because you're a greed whore too. At some point, you ought to stop sending the violations and send a final notice. On this date, we expect this much in full or we will seize the property. In the story. I'm sending you violation 2 times. You don't comply by the second violation with the upgrade of what needs to be repaired, a due bill, photographs, the inspector goes out to investigate, we will seize your property. We will be filing court proceedings to take your ass to court and seize it. That's how you do business. Because these buildings cost. So if a person can give you $3 million for a building, $4 or $5 million for a building, what does that tell you? Whether he has 4 or 5 investors, it doesn't matter. It's still money. So we got 4 or 5 investors, then we're going to get 4 or 5 people to dig in their pocketbook and fix the problem or else. And that will stop all this going around and around in circles. It's no different than a person in the neighborhood who's got all these cars and metal and shit piled up on the property, and people start complaining, and then the city keeps getting all these notices, complaints. Then you go out there and look. It's the same cat and mouse game. Here's a notice, here's a notice, here's a notice. And before you know it, what started today is 3 months down the road. All that stuff is still on the property. You look up, it's a year later. Now it's 5 years. Stuff is still on the property. That's, to me, the city's fault. You charged us an arm and a leg for gas, natural gas, electric. The landlord's beating us down with the rent amount. And then people who are private homeowners, they've got to keep wailing and moaning and crying because of somebody with a hoarded house, which is causing possums, raccoons, vermin. I'm sending you violation number 2, and we're not talking anymore. That should be the law. That should be the law. And the city should send a memo out to every structure owner. There will be no hoarding of cars, debris, trash, grass not cut, trees not trimmed on your property. Bottom line. New York is just downtrodden. Buildings too damn high, blocking natural sunlight. Dilapidated buildings, slumlords, and then the rats. That's a whole nother subject. We can do a whole video on that by itself. And the reason why they have a rat problem, 1, they're surrounded by water. 2, they sit their trash at the front of the building because they don't have a lot of alleyways to store trash bins like we have in cities like Chicago. Well, Chicago is surrounded with alleys. So there are places to put dumpsters. New York has not been afforded that opportunity because they built all these buildings skybox level, 6, 7 stories high, all the way up to 100 damn floors, and nowhere to put trash bins. So the people have to have trash bins at the front of the door. Who wants a trash bin feet away from where they walk into their house? There are people living in basement apartments in New York City, first floor apartments. It does not take long for vermin to make its way into a crawl space, crack in the building, open door. They're resourceful animals. And mice and rats are like roaches. They like water and they gravitate towards water. And they can swim. I never knew they could swim, but yes, they can. It's just a terrible situation to be in. And I feel sorry for people who live in major cities because they like living there. They don't want to live anywhere else. They don't want to live down here in the South where the weather is warmer, milder, less stress. They like that hustle and bustle. But look at the fallout of the hustle and bustle. You now got buildings just falling off. Nowhere to park your car. Rats running around with fur coats on and walking around like they got damn jobs and shit driving cars. But that's the life they want. And I'm not here to tell a person they shouldn't want that life. If you want to live in a major city, that is your prerogative. But you are entitled to the rights to live in a decent place, whether it's New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Miami, LA, or Knoxville, Tennessee. It's all the same. Everyone should be afforded the opportunity to live cohesively, peacefully in a safe, healthy environment. And in my right mind, there is no way I can't see a person right now that lives in New York at this very moment as I speak, not leery of the structure that he or she is residing in. I would be scared shitless. Do you understand what I'm saying? I would be scared to walk in the building. Because imagine the people who live on the street where that part of the building fell. You think they're not wondering if they're going to come home and see their building broke into? God forbid this incident didn't happen while people were sleeping. Those 7 floors. Because one of those beds was up to what was a wall that's no longer. And we got to see somebody's bedroom and their bathroom. No longer. You just imagine that. Looking at the top floor and seeing that bed still just hanging on up there on that top floor. That was somebody's bedroom. Somebody slept in there. Now imagine they were in their sleep when that fell off, just opened up. I can't imagine. That's why every time I looked at the picture, I just cringed. I said, that's somebody's bed. And the wall is missing. And the floor is still hanging on up there. Now you put that on paper. Top floor hanging on. Then a few floors under that, they're broke off, where the beds and stuff just slid off into the ground. And now you're talking about sending people back in that damn building to get their dogs, their belongings, paperwork. I would be very leery of people walking on the surfaces because you don't know what movement is going to trigger the rest of the building to fall. Because for all we know, the building is on its way down. It's just imagine of it coming down. And that's what may be happening here in the near future. That it was going to fall anyway, even if there was no work being done. They were doing something to that building, and it has something to do with something. And I don't care if there's no paperwork to say it was a structural situation. It doesn't matter because it's the building, part of the building, the corner of the building is missing. And you want me to believe that whatever that guy was doing made a whole corner of a building fall down? A whole damn corner of a building fell down from one guy drilling. And the fact that the building had complaints, there's your story. There's your evidence. The building had issues. And when you start talking about ceilings caving in above a person, cracks in a structure, that is a foundation issue. Everybody knows that. I don't give a fuck about it not being on a piece of fucking paper at the city. And that Kavanaugh lady, commissioner, she didn't know what the hell she was talking about Monday. About, I ain't seen no violations. Well, it's day 4, and these other news agents are talking about hundreds of thousands of violations. And people changing their names on documents. And that's what scam artists do. Today they're Jacob Wright. Tomorrow they're Jay Wright. Then at the end of the month, they are Junior Wright. Then they switch the middle name to the first. I have seen this done so many times. And that LLC shit, that's some scam too. I'm not an expert on it, but I've heard about how people change their names in them LLC BS. This is why I say this to young people. And I'm going to say this to young people, whether you are in New York City, you're here in Tennessee, you're in Florida, wherever you are in the United States. Please go to school, get your education. And if you have the fortitude, the aptitude to go to college, apply to college and get you a degree plus a master's degree in the field of your choice or other field, and save your money, pay off your school loans, debts, and buy you a fucking house somewhere, preferably new. So you don't have to end up a New York, Bronx, Morris Heights story. This is why people want new homes, for this very reason. Because older structures bring problems. And the cost of living today is so damn high. Houses, condos, whatsoever, especially in California. You want 400, 500,000 for a dumpy ass 2-bedroom rancher that's probably got the same problems this damn building got. Structure issues, roofing, plumbing, electrical. Now a person has to come up with money now to fix all of that stuff. That's why it's best to pay somebody to go in and look at all that before you put a bid on a house or get a loan for a house. So you will not be miserable later, because most people will have to remodel a house to make it what they want. This is why we have so many people now living here in East Tennessee from California, Arizona, Washington State, Oregon, because it's cheaper to live here in Tennessee. But now that you've moved here, they've now jacked the prices up. So now we're looking just as crazy as the people out there in California. But my message is for the young people who have an opportunity to better themselves. Go all the way, because you're going to need it. Because the world is jacked up and the price of living is high. Everything is high. Clothes, shoes, groceries, everything. And you are going to need something to barter with, which would be a piece of paper to say you can do something. Keep your credit up. Don't tarnish your credit, so you can have a prosperous life. And you don't have to end up like these people here. Because think about it. Some of these people may have wanted to move somewhere else, live somewhere else, buy a house, but they don't have the money. They don't have the credit, so they can't do it. So they live where they can. So they're paying these people $2,000 or so to live in some rundown ass apartment building that is now caved in. And now they have nowhere to live. And it's not saying that even if you had a degree that you're not going to face problems. Of course. But at least if you have money and credit, you can get somewhere newer. That's my message to the young people. And I'll say it to somebody who gets money later in life. Get you something newer. Because you don't want to be one of those people trying to piece together a broke up structure. Now, you got the money to remodel. Knock yourself out. But I don't care what nobody says. There is nothing like brand new. And right now, for something new in New York City, you're talking about Mars versus Earth. Because most people will never have that kind of money to live in a skybox that's $10,000 a month or more. Most people don't make that kind of money. Because rent is astronomical in major cities and even here in the South. What we're paying for rent now in East Tennessee is unheard of. And it's unfair because, as it has been said, many people will not have the aptitude to go out and get a higher paying job to pay this kind of rent. 1 bedrooms now are what? $800, $900 a month. If you get something for $7, it ain't going to be hitting on SHIT. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's going to be old. It's going to have old everything in it. They're probably going to put nothing new in there. You're going to have old cabinets from 1980. Probably got old carpet in it. Don't want to pull it up. Too cheap to pull it up. Won't have a wash and dryer connection. And that's probably $750 pushing $8. Because a lot of older apartments that are here in this area, in houses, duplexes, apartments, they don't even have a wash and dryer connection. And these people are not trying to put one in there because that's more money for plumbing. And they're not even trying to build one on the property for the people to at least be able to have a place to wash their damn clothes. And I don't think nobody should have a property without a wash and dryer connection in the apartment or laundromat on the damn property. Everybody's not going to drive. Everybody's not going to have a car. But that's the point. What do I care? I just want your damn money. That's the kind of world we're in. And this is why people are so stressed and stay uptight, because the basic things that they should be able to have, they don't. And it's not fair. You have no right to command a lot of money for a place to live when you don't have basic amenities. And as I tell people, I don't have no problems with telling you, baby, we're in the land of HGTV. Don't nobody want no old stinking carpet in their house or apartment. Don't nobody want no old fixtures, old cabinets, old doors, old countertops, old window panes, single window panes. People want new tubs, new toilets, new sinks, new fixtures, bath fixtures. It's time to get with the damn program. And that's how you get your money, is you give people newer products in the apartment, in the house, and then you can command the rent money because you're now selling something decent to where you can get a decent return. But you're going to always have a problem when you don't want to carry the weight and fix the place up. And that's what's wrong with everybody. They want to just keep selling old shit to people and expect rent money. And then you ask them to fix something, they're looking at you like you tore it up. No, these were problems that were here before I got here. This is sad to me. This is a sad world we're in. And I feel sorry for these people because tomorrow is the deadline for the temporary housing that they have at the school or wherever they are. And these people out Red Cross or whoever, you all should know better. What the hell are they going to do with help for 4 damn days? Put them up in a damn hotel. Give them ride fare to ride the bus or the train to work. New York is one of the richest cities in America, so there is no reason that the city cannot afford bus transportation passes for a couple of months, and the housing authority gets with them to place them somewhere in the boroughs, surrounding boroughs of available apartment buildings. Offer each resident a housing voucher and give them so many months to find a place or recommend a New York Authority building for them to move into. And that's the way it should be. And you should also give them a couple of $1,000 to get on their feet, to switch their lights and gas, water, whatever they have to pay, over to the next unit. That's how you do business. Because they're going to need a lot. So they need clothes, they need shoes, winter wear. They need transportation money, food, all of that. So give it gift cards, transportation, passes for several months. Because we do not know how long it's going to take for the people to get situated. Now, that's not including, hell, you got to have a bed, you got to have furniture to get it to the next place, even if you get a place. Finding a place. See, it's no different than if you're a regular person out here moving from one location to the other. All of that takes time. But it is winter, and this is the worst time to, one, look for a place to sleep. Move. Because New York will be hit with a fucking snowstorm by Saturday. Now these people got to navigate out in the cold winter with kids, trying to eat, sleep, slumber, get clothes, shoes, toiletries, formula for their children, all the basic necessities, and in winter weather. This ain't the time to be stressed. And it's also the holidays, the worst time to lose your place. As some of the women were saying in the videos, it's Christmas. There's no Christmas for my children now. I don't have a place to celebrate Christmas. There's no Christmas tree. So now these people got to now try to gather up all this stuff and go back in that ragged ass building and pull whatever gifts they got out of there and clothes and shoes and personal effects to get out of there. And I'm telling you right now, I would be scared to death to go back up in that damn building because I'd be afraid to walk across the threshold worrying about the whole damn place caving in, just trying to get my few little luxuries out of there. And let me tell you, tomorrow's the deadline for whatever help they were getting, wherever they were housed. Don't know how the city's going to set up helping the people get in and out of the building safely to get their things out. What would be more worse than what just happened if the motherfucker starts crumbling while they're in there trying to get their goods out of there? You talk about folks hollering and screaming. What the hell that landlord gonna say then? Building caves in while people are in there trying to get their goods out of there. Now imagine that. Lord have mercy. Thank you all so much for following this network, for your support. Please take the polls on my community page pertaining to this debacle with the owner of the building, the owners of the building. I do not believe he's taking any responsibility, Mr. Sanger. He thinks this is just a patch job. He's been knowing of the violations from the city and the complaints. As you heard in the video I played, he claims that he doesn't know anything about the violations. Yes, Mr. Sanger, you do know about the violations. You and your co-conspirators have always known. You own other properties in New York City and God forbid where else. But what I'd like somebody to do is to follow your ass back to your address and let us see how you're living. Because I got a funky feeling you ain't in no rundown ass building in New York. You probably don't even live in New York City. You possibly live a fucking hour out of the city in a nice house where there are no cracks in the building or the structure. And if you do live in New York City, it's probably on the upper west or east side in a swanky building. How about that? You see what goes around comes around. You better be very careful, sir, you and your partners, whoever owns this structure, because you see, those people were hanging outside because they wanted to see you. And you better hope nobody was sitting in their car trailing you, following your ass home, and find out where you stay. Because Google has been so nice to us to give up personal information about us. And it would be a shame, would it not, that somebody paid you a little visit at your address? Because there's going to be somebody who's going to be pushed over the edge due to this situation of being stressed out trying to find somewhere to sleep this winter. And this type of situation would be enough to drive a person insane and push them to do things that maybe they would not think about doing. And you sitting here on a local TV station showing no empathy toward what has happened and basically saying you're going to patch up that corner and get the people back in. They don't want to go back in there. They don't want to live there. Only somebody crazy would want to go back in there and stay, knowing the building has fell off. But as I said, there are probably some people who don't have any family or friends to go bunker with. They don't have hotel fare. They're barely living. And that's what you need to understand. You and your partners. Because you're going to be sued by probably everybody in the building. They probably will all retain the same lawyer or get different lawyers. And they're going to sue you for a lot of money. Because you can best believe, as I said, there is going to be somebody in that group of 100-something persons or 60-something people who are probably going to lose their damn minds and have a mental breakdown. And God forbid, they're going to go out here and do something drastic so they can eat and survive. And you better hope that you and your partners are not going to be on that list of drastic measures. Because desperate people do desperate things. And it's the holidays and it's the time for joy and cheer and sharing. And now these people are worried about where the hell they're going to sleep. And it's cold in New York. And I can say this for anybody who lives in that building. If I were you, if you get a housing voucher from New York, I would take that and find me a low ground structure. I would not want another old building to live in. Hell no. And I know that's going to be hard to find on that island. But you might want to think about coming off of that island and branch your way out of New York City and commute to work like other New York employees. Because sometimes God puts you in, he puts you in a situation to show you it's time for a change. And if not a suburb outside of New York City to commute, maybe you need to think of leaving New York City altogether. Maybe New York is not the place to be. And yes, it would be harder to find a place to move. Like I said, it's winter. We have housing dilemmas all over the United States now because of the high rent. But I would try to use all the resources I get. And as I said, possibly find somewhere else to live. But not an older structure. Prayers for our friends in New York City. And prayers for the children. And praying that those 44 children get to have a good Christmas. Because we're 2 weeks shy of Christmas. And I'm praying that these babies can have a good Christmas wherever they end up. And I know God, he puts us in these places to hear these stories for a reason. To tell us, that I know that you're suffering too. And you have bad days. And things aren't going the way you want, anticipated. But there's somebody in a worse situation than you. And maybe you don't even like where you're at. You got problems where you live in your structure. But right now, you're not going through what they're going through in New York. And just the other day, it's Thursday, they also had a bad fire. Several businesses have burned in New York City right after this building fell. So New York needs our prayers. Because now 7 business owners or so are out of business because of a major fire. See, you don't ever know where you're going to be when disaster hits. Whether it be a tornado, a flood, hurricane, building catch fire, other buildings catch fire, a building falls off. You just don't know where you're going to be. And sometimes I think these things happen to show us that we need to change our ways, especially to those who were profiting. When God's trying to tell you something, that you're greedy and you don't deserve what you have by manipulating other people. And the lesson learned for those who are suffering, that maybe it's time for a change. And then those of us who are outsiders, God is tapping us on the shoulder as well to show us that we too could be in the same situation. And maybe we need to be more humble, even in our worst moment, when it's hard. It's very hard sometimes to show us that, hey, I could put you there if I want you there, but today I'm not. Today I'm not. And I really feel bad for these people. Because I don't care what nobody says. That is the worst feeling in the world. Is not to know where you're going to sleep. And we as people take advantage of always thinking we're going to be staying where we're staying. Well, I'm good. I pay my rent. I'm good with the landlord. You better think again. Anything can happen. Because anything just happened in New York. You don't never know the day you're going to wake up and you're going to be sucking on dirt, asphalt, wood, metal, because you're trapped in a house or structure that fell through, a building that failed and caved in, sucking on water because you live somewhere in a flood zone, hurricane, tornado, house got blown away, destroyed, or you in a financial situation where you couldn't afford your rent, couldn't afford your house anymore. Yes, in check, indeed. So you can fall by the wayside of many ways. And it does not have to be from your own doing. As they say, things just happen. You all have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend. Please be safe. Everybody be aware of your surroundings while out shopping at night. Do not leave parcel boxes outside so people can see what you have. Please turn on your alarm systems. Watch very carefully any unsuspecting cars, foot traffic you don't recognize. Don't feel shame to call the police if you think something hanky-panky is going on with the neighbor's house or unidentified automobiles. This is the season for thievery, so please be careful. Porch pirates, so on and so forth. And please be aware of your surroundings when you are out shopping, because people will rob you. They see you with a lot of bags and also snatching purses. And as I said, desperate times, people are doing desperate things to survive and eat. A lot of people are on drugs and they need a fix. So please just be aware of your surroundings and be vigilant even when it is not the holidays. You're very welcome, sweetheart. Thank you. Yes, this would be very hard for a person to deal with under these circumstances, not having a place to live and not knowing where you're going to sleep. I don't wish that on anybody, because I've been in transition months ago, so I know what it's like worrying about where you're going to sleep and what place you're going to pick. Is it going to be a decent place? Are you going to still have the same problems you had at the last place? Those are just things a person should never have to worry about. This is why I send my message to the young people who have an opportunity to do great things. Go all the way in school, get your degrees, save your money, pay your debts, keep your credit up so you can have a good life. And you don't have to beg from nobody, bum from nobody. You got your own money and you can afford you something nice. Because this is the reason why, as I said, many people are suffering. They don't have the money. They don't have the credit to buy a good house, to buy a new car. So they're pillar to post getting, half-baked SHIT. And they're unhappy because they want more and they feel they deserve more. And we do deserve more in life, because you can't take this stuff with you. So why can't we have it while we're here? And it's in the scripture that you should have the things that you desire. You have every right. Even if sometimes you're not deserving, people think you may not be deserving. But that's between you and God. I want to thank you all so much. Thank you, Lo. Thank you all so much for joining this conversation. God bless all of you. Happy holidays. Prayers for New York City. Prayers for Kentucky, Tennessee, because we had tornadoes last week that touched down here. Prayers for those people. I'll be back with more stimulating conversation and content. There's a few other things I need to touch on pertaining to Mr. Daybell and Corp, and nothing major, but I'm trying to keep you abreast on all the updates. Any stories I don't cover on this network, I sometimes bring an update to my community page. So feel free to check that page for the channel page for updates to breaking news and stories. And the polls, please take the polls, because I do have polls put up pertaining to New York. Jeff Hill, Becky Hill's son, and also Mr. Chrisley, who's currently incarcerated for fraud. I have those polls up, so please feel free to take those polls. You are free to comment under the content, the polls. Feel free to comment below the videos, and feel free to just tell me what you think about what's going on. I feel really bad. I feel really bad for these people. But I know that through God, all is possible. So it may take a little time for all these people to get situated into a decent home. But I pray they find a decent place to live. And if I was them, I would definitely make sure to check out the management company. If indeed they decide to go that route, again, another property, please check your management out and see if they have any bad ratings with the city of New York, Jersey, wherever you go, and also the Better Business Bureau. Save yourself the trouble and verify your new landlord. Thank you all so much for watching this network. You have been listening to The Vault XL. Talk to you guys later. Yes, it's very sad. Hello, Brooke. Thanks for joining me. Sorry you came in so late, sweetheart. I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. I'll try to find some more commentary either late tonight, or I'll come back tomorrow with some breaking news. And I also want to recap on Summer Wells and Tamia that went missing out of Mississippi, and they later found her body in the Mississippi River. Newsbreak has done a new article pertaining to the situation of what happened to her, and I still believe those people who went on that boat cruise with her know exactly what happened to her, because I cannot believe that young lady just jumped off the boat. I believe somebody pushed her, or she made it to dry land and something terrible happened to her and she was dumped in the Mississippi River. Either way, somebody down there knows what happened to Tamia. And I don't really know. Oh, you've been here, Brooke? Okay, thank you, sweetie. I don't know, like I said, if it happened on the ship or it happened when she got off, because some golf cart guy says he did see her get off that boat. But there needs to be some liability between the boat company not having cameras on the boat, cameras at the docking area, no well-lit lamps, which I find very strange. Somebody needs to own up, take responsibility. And I have learned about people that sometimes you have to hit them in the pocket for them to take life serious. And that's what's getting ready to happen with these slumlords in New York City. They're getting ready to get hit in the pocket, and they probably won't get the luxury of getting any more bank loans to buy property. That's what's about to happen to them. The insurance company is about to get sued, and they will not be owning any properties. If they do, they'll be doing their best to sell them to anybody that's interested. Because I'm getting ready to tell you what's getting ready to happen. I'm going to check out of here. The New York City is getting ready to demolish that building wholly, and some rich investors are going to buy up the property, the lot, and they're probably going to put another skybox right there in the heart of Brooklyn. All new infrastructure, and the rent's going to be sky high. How about that? You have a great night too, bro. That's what's getting ready to happen. Some rich tycoon, plural, is getting ready to purchase that lot once it's broken down. And a skybox is getting ready to go in its place. And believe me, what is getting ready to be in its place, those residents will not be able to afford the skybox. Sadly. Thank you for joining me. You've been listening to the Bald XL.